Hello everyone! Now, I've heard concerns from our loyal players and customers about the price of the new Switch 2, and as the CEO of Nintendo of America, I believe it's my responsibility to address these concerns. Gamers, we hear you and we understand you. And my response is, just buy a Switch 1, you fucking brokey. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? Get your money up, not your funny up. And that's not a joke, that's pretty much what he said. So by the time this video is posted, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have been released for the very reasonable price of $450. And that's just a console. If you want the Mario Kart World Bundle, you're gonna have to fork over an extra $50. And if you buy the game separately, you're gonna have to pay $80. $80 for a game that tries to be Nintendo's answer to Forza Horizon 5, but with graphics that haven't evolved past 2014, barely any content, and nothing impressive to offer in the gameplay department. Well, at least playing with friends won't be a hassle, right? Nope, you're wrong. You're gonna have to give us $4 a month as part of our Switch Online program, and in return, you can play with your friends like you've been able to do on PC for free for years. And also, you can use this C button on your Joy-Con controller that we paywalled for no reason other than to be greedy, all the while the PC gamers can just use Discord for free. Okay, but at least if you're paying for the service, it's actually going to be of high quality, right? No. Even in a fucking ad for the feature, the gameplay is being streamed at 3 frames per second. This is what Nintendo thinks is worthy of putting behind a paywall. Oh, Nintendo has a $50 camera? That's great. Is it going to be the quality that I expect it to be for something that costs $50? No, it's going to be on the same level as a phone camera from 2009. Thank you, Nintendo. Very cool. I haven't been fucked over enough yet. Next up, I want Nintendo executives to break into my house and rape me, and then force me to pay them for raping me. Now, I could rant about this all day as someone whose last Nintendo console was a Wii, but the point is that if game companies didn't hate their players before, they sure as hell are gonna start hating them once the Switch 2 releases. In fact, they have already started metaphorically fucking the consumer. Sony announced that they are going to raise the price of the PS5 in the UK and Europe, and days later Microsoft followed suit by raising the prices for the Xbox. Now, the entry-level Series S, the one that supports only digital games, has gone up from the base price of $299 to $379. Now, you could somewhat defend Microsoft and Sony raising their prices because of Trump's electronic tariffs making all the electronic parts more expensive, but you can't defend game prices being raised, especially digital ones. You would expect digital games to cost less, since they don't involve the making of discs and plastic boxes and paying retailers a commission. You just release the game online and that's it. But apparently that's not the case, because earlier this year, a Dutch consumer group filed a lawsuit against Sony, saying that they overcharge for their digital games to the point that they're 47% more expensive than the physical ones. This is the same company, by the way, that released a digital-only version of the PS5 that was $100 cheaper than the version that allowed physical games, and now they're overcharging customers for games that cost less to publish and distribute. This isn't even a case of cognitive dissonance, this is straight-up malice mixed with Down syndrome. What's even the point of raising these prices? Are the CEOs of these companies struggling to afford their 15th yacht? Do they need to hire more maids for their 9th mansion? Is there a new supercar that they must buy? There's no tariffs argument to be made here, because you can release a game that doesn't require you to sell your liver on the black market to buy. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a very impressive game, both visually and gameplay wise, and it costs $50. So why can't these big corporations just stop giving their bosses multi-million-dollar salaries and invest that money into affordable, high-quality products? I mean, some of these prices, especially Nintendo ones, are completely absurd and really show how uncaring game companies are towards their players. Let's look at some old games Nintendo has on their storefront. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Now, these games are between 15 and 12 years old, and even though they have these HD and Definitive Edition labels, you would still still expect them to cost less than a newer game, right? And yet, all of these games cost $60, the same as the newest Mario game. There's no reason for them to cost this much, even if they are HD or definitive editions, because they're just older games that are not as visually impressive as the new ones, and they don't even offer much besides being HD or definitive editions. I mean, Dying Light Definitive Edition for the Switch costs $50, and not only do you get the game, but also a bunch of DLCs and expansion packs. What do you get with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition? The feeling that you've just been scammed? The realization that you're financially illiterate? The desire to hang yourself with a belt? Oh, but don't worry. This isn't the end of Nintendo's tomfoolery. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild releases on the original Switch for $60. Now, it's being ported onto the Switch 2 for $70. And if you already own the game, you have to pay for a $10 upgrade pack. Why the extra fee for an 8-year-old game, you might be asking? Well, according to Nintendo, you get support for the Zelda Notes game-specific service via the Switch app, improved frame rates and resolution, and HDR support. So basically, you get features that should have been normal in the first place had the game been optimized properly. Why are improved frame rates and faster load times even behind a paywall? Why couldn't those just come as part of a free update or bug fix? I mean, every time a game gets some update or bug fix on Steam, the company behind it doesn't ask for money, because the consumers shouldn't be paying for the mistakes that the game devs made. Even EA, as much of greedy fucks as they are, didn't charge the players anything when they put out their Day 1 patch for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And how are these new prices being defended? Well, quite badly. Recently, Bill Trinan, the Vice President for Player and Product Experience of Nintendo of America, addressed Mario Kart World costing $80 by saying, "It's less about the strategy of pricing Mario Kart World, it's more just whenever we look at a given game, we just look what is the experience, and what's the content, and what's the value. This is a game that is so big and so vast, and you'll find so many little things in it to discover. And there's still some other secrets remaining that I think as people end up buying and playing the game, they're going to find this to be probably the richest Mario Kart experience they've ever had." Mind you, Forza Horizon 5 costs $60 and is superior both graphically and content-wise. I mean, besides the normal races, you have playground events where you can compete against players in a variety of fun challenges, you have a battle royale mode, and every week there's a playlist event where you compete in various races to win prizes, and in turn you get points that, if accumulated, will allow you to win cars or backup prizes to get even more exclusive cars that you can't get in the game shop. Is any of that stuff in Mario Kart World? No, it's just races, some challenges, and restaurants that unlock different outfits. How do you justify those extra $20? Is the presence of Mario characters alone enough to justify the game costing more? Like, if you're a Nintendo fanboy who's dying to defend his favorite billion-dollar company, please, do comment down below and explain this retardation. But hey, I gotta give it to Nintendo. At least it wasn't as bad as what the CEO of Gearbox, Randy Pitchford, said in response to a Twitter user asking him not to make Borderlands 4 cost $80. A, not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. Masterful gambit, sir. You really are in touch with the people who play your video games. I mean, not only is this statement completely out of touch and will warrant people to pirate your games, but back in 1991, games were expensive because they were put on cartridges, which were a much more pricier method of game distribution than CDs or Steam. If a digital game doesn't require anything physical to be made, why charge the customer more? Also, this guy's reply with 10 times more likes is pretty good. Dog, we are not paying $80 for a Borderlands game, fully knowing you'll do multiple season passes that cost another $100, and you'll probably sell weapon skins too. And you know what? I agree. I think it's beyond pointless to charge so much money for a game, and then on top of that, charge more for pointless cosmetic bullshit. It's okay when Fortnite does it because at least the game is free, but when the game is $80, $20 and you have season passes and other stuff that doesn't add much except push that price to the triple digits, you start to see that the people behind these games don't actually care about making a good product and instead think of their games as money printers. To be fair though, us gamers are also guilty of accepting and engaging in these practices. I mean, if we weren't buying Call of Duty Battle Passes or 4 million copies of the Skyward Sword HD for the Switch, these companies wouldn't have the incentive to be so greedy. Sure, they would have always tried to implement predatory or anti-consumer measures, but by giving them an inch, we have allowed them to take a mile, and now they're metaphorically raping us and robbing us while we do nothing. And it's not just money they're robbing us of, they're also trying to take away our right to actually own video games. Ubisoft is unironically arguing that players who buy their games don't actually own them and instead they're just purchasing access. So they're legit arguing that they have the right to take away the things that we pay good money for, and they don't even make it obvious that we're just paying for a license. Now for context, Ubisoft said this amidst a lawsuit they're facing for shutting down the 2014 online game The Crew. But the way they worded that statement seems to imply that their dumb logic not only applies to online experiences, but single-player experiences which don't require an internet connection to play. So basically, if I buy Far Cry 4 with the intention to play it solo, Ubisoft still wants to have the right to take that game away from me. Am I justified now for wanting to go to their HQ and set it on fire? Now of course, Ubisoft isn't the only company that's doing this, as Nintendo, being the greedy anti-consumer fucks that they've been for years, also are trying to take away your right to own video games. Some of the Switch 2 games, like the port for Street Fighter 6, aren't gonna come on normal physical game cards. Instead, they're gonna be on game key cards, which don't actually contain the game data and only have the license, meaning you have to download the full game from the internet. So now they want to have control not just over the digital games, but physical ones as well. You actually can't fucking own anything anymore. I'm warning you guys, heed my warning. Do not allow Nintendo to take over the world, because if they do, they are going to be just as bad, if not worse, than the Arasaka Corporation from Cyberpunk 2077. Everything is going to be expensive, you're going to require certain privileges in order to own or access something, and you're just going to be living in complete shit. So how do we deal with this? Well, just don't buy anything from these greedy companies, because as a consumer, your dollar is the best voting power. When the PS3 was released, for example, no one bought it because it was so expensive and there was such a lack of video games. But after a while, they started lowering the prices and introducing models with improvements, and the result was that by the end of its life, the PS3 had sold more units than the Xbox 360, which before then it had been tailing. So gamers, please, have some respect for yourselves, and buy from companies that actually deserve it, play on PC, or if you do want to play on a console, get a Steam Deck, because that is actually a good system, and I actually own one. This is the 1TB model, and I gotta say, I love it. The battery life may be, a bit short, but I think it's still a worthy purchase. But anyway guys, that is the end of this very epic commentary video. Thank you all so much for watching and for all of your support. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, turn notifications on. Please comment because it really helps me out in the algorithm. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.
Yeah. She got to the bone. Wait, these niggas watching. I swear to God, they be my clones. Switching my hoes like my flows. Switching my friends like my clothes. Keep on shooting that gun, no reload.